counting in. Here we go. Here we go.
You go off the audio here, or
Yeah, we'll just use Skype. I think Skype did all right for us last time around.
until somebody actually complains again. Because really, it was mainly Teague's brother that was complaining. I think, to be honest.
And
I think he's gone.
Yeah.
You think he's your brother? You don't know? You're not sure?
Don't talk to him.
I mean, do you mean from the group or from life? I mean, Jesus, you should know that.
Yeah, yeah, just from the group, I think. But we are here in episode 44 of the Current Gen podcast, and we're trying to figure things out with audio, video, all that. Curious to get feedback from those of you who are watching or listening. What do you prefer? Are you okay with the audio quality if you're just listening, or do you, is it subpar now? The last couple of weeks we've just used Skype audio. The alternative is we each record our own local audio. We each send it to Tim, and then Tim spends a couple hours matching everything up, getting it right, and exporting. So I don't want to be lazy if it sounds that much better. I don't mind putting the work in, but I'm curious what all of you who are currently watching and listening think. Give us feedback if you've got an opinion on that one.
I'm going to speak for Derek, because obviously I don't care because I'm a jerk, and Derek's very nice. That Derek appreciates you doing all that work. So
thanks, Derek. Appreciate you saying that, man.
I don't care.
I've always appreciated them.
All right, so before we get into the show, let's help Derek pick out a new background together, because the yellow is destroying my retinas, and it's been like
people are
4
tired
weeks
of
now.
the yellow and then just text that says, "Hey, sorry, whoops," or something.
So let's select a new image for Derek. Derek, why don't you? There you go. Oh wow, that's hipster.
No, you gotta do the starter, the apps, the company starter company, whatever.
Startup company, yeah.
Startup company. Or that.
Not
What is
bad.
that? It's a lot of flamboyant goop.
I was actually thinking that we have you do a screen share. We get on Google and just search Derek, and the first couple images that come up, we got to pick from one of those.
All right.
And we'll see what we get. But so while Derek's doing that, listen, we are in 2021. We are in the new year.
We did it.
We made it. It's funny. I think it was Kyle who posted this, and I love that guy. He said something like, sorry that everything didn't magically reset when the calendar moved to the next day.
I mean, is he sure? Because that's what happens, though, right? Everyone's all like, "Yeah, goodbye that previous year. Welcome the new year." Yeah.
Yeah, so I start to get a little jaded as I look through, whether it's on Facebook or Twitter or even just in general reading articles. The folks who I think they're trying to be funny, but they actually have disdain for a year on the calendar because of things that happened. And at first I'm like, yeah, I get it. It was a crazy year, mainly because of the pandemic. I think everything else was pretty standard year, in my opinion. I think the pandemic threw everything for a loop. But anyway,
I mean, some people are just. It's like how some people I don't know, believe in karma or like kind of things like that are sort of supernatural or like not real. People associate all of the bad juju and all the bad crap that happened with 2020 with that number. It's just like that's a number, but they're like, yeah, bad stuff happened, so that year was bad, and this next year everything starts over and it'll be great. And it's like, well, good things can happen at any time, and bad things could happen at any time.
So then let's do this. Let's each name one good thing that happened in 2020, whether it's video game related or not, doesn't matter. I'll start. I'll say I think launching this podcast with you guys has been a highlight for me each week. I know sometimes it gets to the end of the week and it's like, oh, when are we going to record? Like I've got a lot of other stuff going on. But even then, once we start talking, this is just a great escape for me from the craziness of reality, regardless of what year it is. It's just nice. So I've really enjoyed doing the podcast with you guys. That's been a positive for me. That's been a good 2020 thing. Anything good from 2020 for you guys?
I mean, I bought a house.
Yeah,
so
man.
That's cool. Because my wife gets like more frustrated with it than I do, but it's like realistically, even when you buy a house where somebody's done a lot of work to it and then they're trying to sell it, like there's still going to be things that they didn't do that then you have to drop money on. And unfortunately, we had to drop a few $1,000s on some stuff, but it wasn't a new roof. New roofs are very expensive, or a new septic. Those are very expensive. So thankfully, it wasn't unbearably terrible, but we have a house and it's very nice. It's very quiet here, so I like it. It's very nice. And also recording with you guys,
Dude, new house, that's a big one.
Yeah.
And then looks like Teague found himself a nice background.
Is that actually you?
Is that the guy from 98 Degrees? Who is that?
I think it's actually Derek. It's
It's
alternate
a
reality.
Derek meme, and it's like something douchebag Derek.
Is that you
For
from
those of you
another
who are
timeline?
just listening, it shows a guy, very white dude with the tank top.
Looks. I
taking a
mean, he
picture of
looks like
himself
it could
in
be
the
a
mirror.
younger version of me.
Yeah,
And
I
he's
was
got
gonna
his
say
hat on backwards and crooked because he's cool.
it straight up looks like how Marvel has like the all the different universes. It's like different universe Derek. That's just straight up what it is. Like
There it is.
Douchebag Derek.
That's right.
What does it say? Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you a new meme. Douchebag Derek.
so wait. Let me just try to clear up because I'm confused. Which one's the douchebag?
The meme, bro, because
one.
I'm
Okay.
I'm legit.
But
That was a good one. I liked it.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
Hang on,
Tim.
I got a good one for you. Hang on.
What hat are you wearing today? I feel like you change hats every week.
This is just my Colorado hat.
It's just a Colorado hat.
It's just a hat that's got a C for Colorado. Sorry, I'm laughing at this picture that I'm trying to save to put up as my background. Sorry. Let's see if I can get this to work here. Okay. Is it gonna work?
Oh my.
is that alternate reality, Tim?
It's not that far from reality, guys. It's been a long quarantine. Okay, I've got it.
Right. Yeah, you.
I just Googled Fat Tim, and that's what came up. So
He looks great.
All right. Well, I'm gonna keep Freya, even though her and I have nothing in common. But
So before Derek shares with us, I don't know, something good from 2020 that you look back on the year and say this is a good thing. That is what I look like without a beard. So you guys are all wondering, without the beard, there it is. That's the face.
So you're literally hiding like two chins underneath that.
I am. I'm hiding two chins and about 175, 200 pounds. Yeah.
oh, just right in the chin. Jesus, that's a lot of top weight.
Yeah. It's a lot of beard I got going on.
Yeah.
So for me, the good of 2020. I mean, I don't know. Nothing special happened. So I think overall it was a challenging year for most. That doesn't mean it was for me. I mean, it was challenging with my job, but overall it wasn't that challenging of a year.
Yeah, because you had started your job just before the end of 2019, right? Your new job.
I started in December of 2019, so
Okay.
I've been dealing with a lot there. But other than that, like my personal life was not impacted by COVID. I do think there's a lot of people that were impacted by it, but I do also think there's just dramatic people that latch onto it. They're like, yeah, COVID was so terrible. And it's like, no, it didn't impact your life at all.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think we might have a positive case in our house. We'll find out soon. My wife lost taste and smell a couple days ago. And has some of the symptoms like headache and felt a little fevery. She thought she wasn't sure, but never took her temp and now doesn't really have the fever, but lots of throat pain and headachy and just kind of that general flu, like I'm just tired all the time feeling, just kind of feels crappy. And now can't taste her. And her smell is there tiny bit, but not really.
Yeah.
And that's only for really strong smells. And even then it's like, is that a smell? She said it's really weird because it's like your brain knows what it's supposed to smell like.
Yeah.
So she can't tell if she's smelling a little bit of it or if it's just her brain kind of triggering what she knows it should smell like.
That's
Sounds
weird.
very crazy. But yeah, like the other night, we both usually snack before we watch something or while we watch something. And so she just kind of like got out a jar of pickles and grabbed one and took a bite. Like nothing. She was like, it just tastes.
Wow, she has great taste in snacks. Jar of pickles.
You don't like pickles? No, I think she was trying to get something that has a strong taste.
Yeah, I was going to say pickles are very distinct.
They're disgusting.
My wife loves pickles also. I can't stand pickles. I don't understand anyone that likes pickles at all. I
liked them when I was younger. Like
she was trying salty sweet. So like chocolate, pickles, anything with like an extreme sweet or extreme salty.
Sure.
Let's just try that and see if it kicks in.
I also don't understand the salty sweet thing. My wife's the same way. I don't get it.
Yeah.
I
So
don't get it.
yeah, she can't smell dirty diapers or the dog. So that's a positive out of this right now.
It's like, hey, let me like take a hot dog and like scoop some ice cream out. Like I don't understand. Like like it just doesn't make sense. Yeah, have one or the other. Like just Don't be a weirdo. Like,
Well, she wasn't eating chocolate and pickles together. She was just those were two of the flavors that she
but
tried.
some people do weird stuff like that though, Tim.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's kind of like how people put pineapple on pizza and they think that's fine. Like that's
Pineapple
not fine.
on pizza is fine.
No,
Okay.
Tim. All right, you know what? We had a good run, so
That's it. That's the end. 2021. We're calling it. So like this. Okay. So like this apple cider. Like I'm drinking this Reds, not a sponsor, hard apple cider, which is pretty sweet. If you guys have ever had it before, I think it's pretty sweet. And she took a sip of it, and all she can taste, kind of on the cheeks a little bit, she can taste that there's like that a little bit of that bitter alcohol, like when you can tell something is a hard drink,
yeah.
but she can't taste the apple or sweetness whatsoever.
Hmm.
I'm like, dude, this thing's got. Well, I don't see the nutritional facts anymore. I'm pretty sure it's got tons of sugar in it, but
Yeah.
can't taste it.
Well, hopefully she'll be okay.
Yeah, I think she'll be all right. We'll find out. So, I don't mean to. Sorry if you've already turned this off because you're mad because I made it sound like COVID wasn't a big deal. I wasn't trying to say that. COVID is a big deal. Like Derek said, it's been a big deal for a lot of people, and there's been people who have lost loved ones because of it. Not downplaying it whatsoever. I'm truly not. In all sincerity, I am saying I think 2020, the year for us to kind of assign something special to that year as it was like our villain that we all teamed up against. I just don't think that's true. I just think it happened to be the calendar when this thing happened, and there were a lot of good.
I just think it's an attention thing. Yeah. Like for instance, when a celebrity dies. Yeah. By the way, I don't know if you guys know this or our listeners know this. Celebrities die every year. They don't just die in 2020. I don't know if you know that. But every time I would see a celebrity die in 2020, you would see a post, F 2020.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, you're such a tryhard. Like,
they die in 2019 and 2018. Like, I remember when Sean Connery died, who, by the way, I love that dude. His movies are classics. I love Sean Connery and a lot of the stuff he's in.
He was great on set.
He was like 110 years old, or however old Sean Connery is. And he hasn't been in movies for so long because he's been battling with sickness and he's been out of the limelight. And so when it comes up that, hey, I think it's 15 years since his latest movie or 12 years or something since this last movie, and it comes up that he died, my honest thought was, oh, I didn't know he was still alive. Like that was my honest thought. I didn't remember that he was even still alive, and that's okay. We're not personal friends. He's not my dad. That's fine. And I was like, oh, that's a bummer, but that guy made some good movies. I'm not gonna call off the whole year and blame something on the calendar. So anyway, I know that's kind of a weird soapbox. I just think people, Derek, you're right. They go for attention. It's like it's a way to get everyone to give you likes and kind of like high five, like F this year. It's like, well, okay, maybe. But
it's a tricky back and forth because it's like it's kind of about perspective, but you also do want to, you don't want to like turn off your humanity, like because like sometimes I'll tell Renee like, hey, you know, it could be worse, and like some people don't like when you say that because it's like, well, yeah, but like still I want to acknowledge right now that this thing that's bad is happening. It's like, yeah, no, for sure, but like, you know,
that's true.
So it's like, yeah, 2020 sucked, but I mean. The Holocaust didn't happen this year.
Of course, everything's perspective, but I think the key, and I'm not gonna preach. I preach in our text messages when I go off, but I will say this, and I've said this before on the show. It is much easier. It's actually natural for you to be negative. So of course people latch on. That's what I'm talking about. The attention they get for being negative. Like we connect with people being negative. Like we empathize with them. Instead of going, okay, but there's always something good that you can find in anything. Like, you really can. Like Daniel said, I know people don't like to hear that, but it's true. It could be worse. But even that, it's better to even go, no, let me actually find what is good and let me be grateful for it. Like that's the way I try to live because it is easier for me. I'm not saying I lived that way my entire life. I didn't. It is easier for me to go, no, F 2020, and let me pick all the reasons why. Hey, I'm going through a divorce, blah, blah, blah. All these things that I can list off and be like, I'm a victim, or this is terrible, or I can focus on the good. Yeah. And that's what I try to do. So, and we shouldn't assign it like, I agree with Tim, and I get what, that's if you're taking it literal, like 2020 did this to us. Most people are just blaming 2020 because, like I said, it's it's something they can
They're
connect.
blaming
with other people.
2020, and everyone knows it was actually Trump's fault. So
It really was. So 2021 is when we can actually heal.
Thank you.
We cannot heal in 2020. We'll heal in 2020.
Hashtag I was thinking it.
But anyways, that we went on a long enough rant about that. We probably offended 2 of our 5 listeners, and they're out. But the point is if you're sad about 2020, if you hate 2020, cool. The year doesn't actually care, and
cool
neither
beans.
do I.
Cool beans. Congratulations.
Hey, I hope the rest of your day and the rest of your year is cool beans.
Just like I don't believe 2021's just going to magically be better.
No. Although, again, Biden says that we can finally heal. You didn't get that, did you? Like, we can start healing now, Derek. Did you know that?
Well, I am starting the process now. I refused in 2020.
Okay, we can heal now, and it's no thanks to Trump. Okay, now because he's gone.
Oh, snap! Nice transition there. I like it.
I like Fat Tim better.
He was leering over my head a little too much. I got nervous, so I switched it over to just a general.
This
is kind of creeping me out because I really feel like that could be me.
Dude, it seriously looks like a younger. Like,
honestly, no joke. That looks like it could be you taking a selfie like 15 years ago.
I even got a little bit of facial hair, which is totally not
he's got the little not the soul patch. What do they call that? The skull cap, whatever that thing is in the bottom.
Soul patch.
Soul
right
patch.
Here.
Okay,
this thing right here.
It's so funny. Maybe somebody did take a picture of me, and they're like, "Douchebag Derek."
Have you asked your father if you have a long lost brother?
It's true. Yep, definitely could be. Well, listen, it has been. We're wrapping up the end of break for most folks, whether it's kids at school. I don't know about you guys, but like your local school districts or whatever. But ours are finally getting back to school next week. So we have a week this week of like some online learning that they still have to do. They're going to get back on their computers this week. So it's still going to feel like break a little bit. And then next Monday, unless crazy things happen, unless someone else in our family contracts this thing, by then we will have been cleared. Even if my wife tests positive, this is day 5 since she's had symptoms. So they'd be cleared to go ahead and go unless they have symptoms of some kind. So we could be looking at kids heading back to school for the first time since I think it was 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. So it's a long break. It's a long break. So I'm looking forward to that. And I want to hear from you guys. What have you had a chance to play or watch, either one, over the last week since we last chatted? Anything of note that you want to highlight?
I mean, for me, the only thing I've been really doing is diving further into Assassin's Creed. And I know we talk about it every week, so people are probably sick of it. But I kind of went from like feeling like it's a good game as soon as I started up to I don't know if I like this game once I hit like the 25-hour mark. Now I'm at like 43 hours. So I think this last week I've put in like 18 hours because I think.
What's your opinion of it?
I like it a lot, but my thing is, and I think I said it last week, is I just still feel like it drags.
Yep.
Story-wise, like
it does.
I feel like it's just taking too long, and I'm really disappointed because I'm telling you, somebody from Ubisoft said this was like a shorter Assassin's Creed campaign.
Somebody told me.
Okay, so I remember you saying that, and I was thinking back, and I tried to look it up a little bit after we talked last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever that was. And I remember the only thing I could find was that they said the map is smaller than Odyssey, but it's more compact with more to do.
That actually sounds that sounds.
And so I
but I thought it was like the completion of the main campaign was shorter than Odyssey.
Listen, it could be, but they clearly weren't factoring in things like, hey, you need to be at a certain level. You need to, like, you got to do a lot of side stuff to really accomplish much in the main story. So they apparently maybe they were just factoring in like the overall time each of those main quests take, which is unfair if that's what they were doing. But I'm with you. I do, and I said this before too. I think I love this game. It's going to be in my top 10 for sure, probably top 5. I think it's pretty much a lock for top 5. I just love this. It's like my favorite genre of game, but it's got enough shortcomings that it's not going to, I can already tell you it's not going to win my favorite of the overall year. It doesn't help that some absolute masterpieces also came out this year, but anyway, it's fun, but I'm right there with you, man. It gets repetitive, and I'm at the point now where I'm kind of like, man, I wish there was a really clear cut, here's your next 8 missions you need to do to finish the game. And it's not that clear, unfortunately. So I don't know. We'll we'll see what happens. I do want to finish it because I'm enjoying the story, but I feel like I've explored what I want to explore. I get what all the side stuff is. I've played the dice game. I've gone fishing. I've explored, mountain peaks to try to find some treasure chests. I'm kind of over it, and I'm ready to.
So I'm not gonna spoil it because I'm not gonna name names or anything. But like, I personally, maybe there's a payoff at the end of the game or later. Personally, do not like that the game takes me from I'm controlling my character in England, doing my thing.
Yep.
And then story has me drink potion, and I go to another place.
Yep.
And I did a bunch of missions there, and then I drink another potion, and now I'm in another place. And I'm like, I don't want to go to these places. I want to stay in England.
Is there
because I'm not really that interested in anything that's going on. I don't really like the characters, and
do you see the connection though between the quote unquote real characters and their
like the voice
heavenly
acting
counterparts?
Is the same.
Yeah. Well, also their character models too. So there's one in particular who's a clean-shaven, longer-haired version of a guy who's got a beard and more of a mohawk look. Anyway, and then there's another guy who plays one of the main assassins in the real world, and he plays a pretty major character. And it's the same model. It's just they shaved his beard and gave him a different haircut. So I think there's some connection there, or it could just be their way of saying this is in this kind of fever dream or whatever that Eivor is having. He's assigning certain people from his life to these roles. I don't know.
But is there a purpose to that other
area? I don't know.
I'm sure there's going to be a payoff. I'm just saying for me right now, I personally don't care. I'm like, I think it's more not story. I don't like the missions.
Yeah,
and
I'm with you.
I'm kind of in a rhythm and a pattern. Like I'm leveling up, I'm killing everything, I'm destroying, and then it's like, where's my next main quest? I gotta go.
And it's not brief. These are not like little cut scenes. These are lengthy and huge areas to explore, lengthy missions. And you're talking about the second potion you take. That whole area like doubles the size of that, and it's like, okay.
I haven't even experienced that.
there's when you kind of wrap up that first section, it's like the first chapter of that story in this other world, this dream that he's in.
I mean,
the story's not over, so you have to go to another one. And the main storyline has some interesting moments, but like Derek said, there's so much to get to each of those story moments. It's almost like they're assuming you're not going to play anything else, right? You're just playing our game. You're just playing.
I think
that's my problem. And a lot of gamers I know back in the past, they complain, this isn't worth $60. It's a 7-hour game. So now all these games
you're getting your money's worth
so
here.
Much filler. Yeah,
I'll say.
But it's like I want to play more than just Assassin's Creed.
I almost feel like they should have just saved that whole unless there's like really a deep connection to like the regular part of the game. I feel like that should have just been DLC. They should have saved that for DLC.
I think
the only connection I've seen has been certain characters that are certain counterparts in the dream.
Yeah.
And I think there's some meaning behind that, how Eivor is assigning them to those. It's like how he views them, and then that's what he assigns them. So there's something to that. But in general, I can't tell what it is, because when you get back, you have these options to tell the shaman lady details.
Yeah.
At the end of you kind of complete an arc, and you go back and talk to her, and then it gives you options. You can either tell her, no, I'm good, that's all I know, or you can tell her details. I have no idea if there's, I should look this up, if there's a consequence to that. Should you not tell her this stuff? So all that stuff feels very unguided and feels like a guessing game.
In the beginning of the game, that lady who makes the potion, who's like a fortune teller type person,
she's sort of like a witch, yeah.
She's the one that tells you that you're gonna betray your brother.
Right.
So then now you're going into these dreams, and you're the main dude, and then your brother's a certain character, and then like you said, other people that are in England with you doing all this stuff are in this dream world. So I'm thinking this dream world is going to connect us to what's happening in the real world as far as living out why she, if she does, betrays her brother.
Well, I've got a theory about it that's hard to explain without spoiling both the dream world section.
Yeah, so we won't. But my point was more.
But I have a theory. In the dream world, there's a whole storyline involving a wolf, and I think
Right.
that is
Fenrir?
telling you very clearly something that's going to happen in the main game. And I could be wrong, but
Fenrir? I was
Fenrir.
pronouncing it
Yeah, you
incorrectly.
got to really punch
Fenrir.
the rear on that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm right there with you, man. I'm kind of, I haven't given up on it. Obviously, I'm going to finish it. I love all the other games, but this does feel, and Dan, I think you were about to say something like this. This feels more like, should this have been DLC,
Yeah.
or is it so important to the main story? And if what I think might happen ends up happening, then it is important to the main story. It's just, I'm not sure I love the way they chose to
I
do
just
it.
saw a tweet like when before the game came out that the story was spoiled, and the person that was spoiled tweeted at the guy who wrote the game, and he said, "Found out our story was spoiled for me. Amazing job, masterpiece, whatever." Like he was basically revealing that the way this was all scripted. So I could totally see
Interesting.
this game playing out story-wise if I would actually pay attention, which is hard for me to do.
Yeah,
it'd actually
performances
be
are good,
cool.
but I am getting some glitchy stuff that really interrupts my immersion into it.
Mm.
So I started to find myself feeling like Derek. I'm like, can I skip through some of this? Because I'm starting to see some weird glitches, and I get the gist, you know. So, and that's saying a lot. Come from someone who loves Assassin's Creed Odyssey. You know, you guys know this is one of my most hyped games, and so yeah.
I love the series, but I agree with there was a post, I don't know if it was last week or the week before or whatever. Jesse had mentioned like these just don't feel like Assassin's Creed games. Like they feel so far removed from like what that even is.
Well, what's
And
an
it's
Assassin's
like,
Creed game though?
I
Well,
mean,
I think he's focusing on gameplay
okay.
as far as like, because he's at the time. Well, no, he's pretty far into it now, so he's seen the Assassin stuff because it's clearly an Assassin's Creed game story-wise. Like they have it in there pretty thick. But like
there are characters, but like I don't feel like an assassin. I do feel like a Viking that
But
sometimes.
that's what I'm saying. I
Yeah.
think gameplay-wise, it doesn't feel like an Assassin's Creed game, even though you can stealth, but your character, the lifestyle that they live, the people they hang out with, that's not their thing. And that was kind of where the Assassins part of the story came in pretty early, where they were like, let's train you on how to be an assassin. So they were trying to teach them a new way to kill.
They teach them how to do the jump and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Sure.
So it is still an Assassin's Creed game because, like Tim said, what defines it? Like,
I mean,
does it strictly have to be stealth? Because no Assassin's Creed game was ever strictly stealth. I would have never played them.
It's not even necessarily the gameplay that I'm talking about. Like, so maybe a lot of people actually wouldn't like this concept, but I almost feel like I wish it was the other way around. I wish I was playing those assassins, or like just any, some whatever character they decided to create, along with those two guys that you meet.
Yeah.
Going to meet Vikings, and then the Vikings kind of showing their way to the assassins, like kind of being more.
I've wondered that too.
Visceral.
Why aren't we playing? Yeah, why aren't we playing as? I forget their names already.
Was it Hatham or Hytham?
Baymare.
Hytham and the other guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm with you. I've wondered that too. Why aren't we playing as one of them? That's true. But I do think this one strikes me as more of an Assassin's Creed game. Because they're going to be villains. This one strikes me as more of an Assassin's Creed game than Odyssey did, in terms of like it ties in more directly to the lore. Odyssey, I think I went for like hours of playing that game. Yeah. Didn't run into anything AC or order related. Yeah. It was just Spartans and Athens, and it was I like ancient Greece, so that was fine with me. But this one, I'm hitting it a lot more. I'm finding a lot of the secret bases. Have you found any of those secret assassins? Order base or the hidden ones bases or whatever.
Yeah.
and I also do think that I'm able to more successfully stealth. Like you can stealth a lot more, and it is more fun in this one than Origins or Odyssey. There's actually a way to kill people with one strike, just with a very easy timing.
Oh, that time. Yeah.
So.
Oh, I love assassinating in this game, especially when you unlock the skill to double assassinate, which I think you can even triple. But
you can chain it one more time. Yep.
Yeah. So. I mean, here's my thing. Like, I don't get caught up on that. Like, Assassin's Creed has changed because I don't know if sales numbers were going down, but just the reception of the franchise was going down. So they made, I think, a intelligent change to not only gameplay, but even they were listening to the feedback from lots of people on the story too. So I think this is Assassin's Creed. I don't think I think if your mindset is the old is Assassin's Creed, so this doesn't feel old like the old at all, so therefore it's not Assassin's Creed. No, the point is the old is dead. Like they're saying what we were is not what we're ever going to be again because well, we had to adapt. Plus, we took the feedback of what you guys didn't like, and we created something new. So why not ditch the Assassin's Creed? Well, why would you? That is a big selling franchise. And there's just a ton you can do story-wise. It's kind of like Final Fantasy, where you can just create a new story with new characters, and it's all in that same universe, but they're not really connected except that it's in that same universe. It's
And that's
not
how
the
I've
same.
been approaching it too. It feels very Final
Yeah.
Fantasy to me. There's a connection, but it's loose, and that's okay.
And that's
I will
what
say this: folks who
Assassin's
played
Creed
the
is.
Assassin's Creed 1, 2, and 3, and whatever the Revelations and Brotherhood as well, I bet you when they played Black Flag, Unity, Syndicate, they were like, "This is an Assassin's Creed," because they changed a lot for those games too, adding
Yeah.
zip lines, adding a lot more to hand-to-hand combat. You didn't have to assassinate as much, and then when those changed again, people who liked those, so it's almost like you're getting these waves, these
Those still
generational
felt
waves.
like Assassin's Creed games to me. Also,
They feel
side
very
note,
different to me though.
incredibly offended that you guys are comparing Assassin's Creed and Final Fantasy. Just want to throw that out there, but that's fine.
We're just doing it because of Freya there in your background.
How dare you? I still felt like I don't know. I guess maybe it is hard to explain, but those still felt like Assassin's Creed games to me. Like Origins did too, because it's technically the origin of that order, right? The hidden ones. It's the origin story, of that order. And
but
then
did it feel like Assassin's Creed until the end to you? Like throughout the game, you felt like
Origins?
Yeah.
No. I don't remember. It's been so long. I played that right when it came out, and then
I really enjoyed it. But I remember at the end
I did too.
going, "Oh, that's how it's Assassin's Creed." Like honestly,
yeah, it wasn't. It was the same thing we're getting here. It was basically very thin story wise as far as how it connects to Assassin's Creed universe until like the end. You're like, what a cool little twist, and it did. That's why Origins. I liked Origins more than Odyssey is because I liked the story and I liked the twist at the end and I liked what they did. And for me, that's one of the reasons why I like Assassin's Creed games is because I always feel like they do a really good job of throwing people off. And they usually have one or two parts in a game. Every single game they release, they usually have one or two parts where you're like, you know what? I did not see that coming. Or way to like tie this back into Assassin's Creed. I didn't see this coming. I had no idea. Like that's the stuff that I feel like they've always been really good at doing. But anyways, to me, the old Assassin's Creed isn't Assassin's Creed anymore. So to say this doesn't feel like Assassin's Creed, I could be taking Jesse out of context, but for me, I felt like when I had conversations with him, it was mainly like, hey, it doesn't play like Assassin's Creed. And of course, I know he would mention the story's been cut and all that stuff too. But I think the big thing is this doesn't feel like a Assassin's Creed game that I would play. But yeah, that's because what we used to play is dead. Like they've killed it all. They're like, yeah, we'll keep the blades and all that stuff. We'll tie that in story-wise. But you're whatever we put you in, and you can play. The freedom is what they're going for. Play how you want. You want to be an assassin, be an assassin. You want to go in and kill everything like a Viking and be loud and noisy, do that. You want to do both, do that. They're kind of stuck because if they did force you to play it like the old Assassin's Creed games, people would complain about that too.
Well, they're sure good about just suddenly killing things in this series, just like they did in Assassin's Creed 3.
So. Yeah, that the modern day story has been, in my opinion, just straightforward letdown. There's no way around it since AC3. I actually didn't mind what happened in AC3, but I wanted it to continue. Now show me what happens after that. Show me, these two groups in the modern day. Like I was really hoping it would build up to an Assassin's Creed set.
Well, it technically kind of was, right? But it was the side characters.
Yeah. And they had a lot of cool stories and characters in the modern day that I cared about. Like that little group that you worked with, I cared about it. In fact, I think in this game,
They're still around.
in this intro, they're there.
No, they're
but
still
they're
in like all the games. So
yeah,
if
but
you
they're
look for it,
only
still in
there
all the
for
games.
like 2 seconds, and it's
There
like,
might
dude,
be-
I
exactly.
remember you and I love you. You're that sarcastic asshole. Like, where are you?
That
Like,
English
why
dude?
are you not important anymore?
Yeah.
That's what I don't like.
Yep. Agreed. Sometimes they're just there through like some little audio file or email you might find, like, oh, that's that person. And then sometimes, like in the recent ones, they've brought back a couple of characters that if you pay attention, they were from the past modern day stuff.
I mean,
But
we could do a whole segment on that because like I'm still very pro the modern day stuff, and like I think because like everyone's assumption after 3 was going to be like, oh, like the next one after that's going to be all modern stuff, and it's going to be like this sort of like almost like futuristic like sci-fi, like, you know, and because there was like concept art of like with Desmond and like him wearing like, you know, kind of futuristic, like a futuristic outfit that was pretty cool. But like that's not the route that they went because, well, it seems like a lot of people don't like the modern day stuff.
I mean, they've been teasing other settings in every game. So every game, if you dig around, you can find mentions of other settings and timelines. It's like, oh, that'd be a cool one if they did that. But I'm right there with you. I actually thought
that's what they got caught up in.
I think so too.
I think they had an original, and don't get me wrong, I'm sure they tacked stuff on as they made games, but I think they had an original concept that the modern day story was going to tie into the past. And I think what really hooked a lot of players was going from setting to setting to setting. And that's what they now, instead of making the game revolve around the story, they now made the story revolve around the setting.
There you go.
So it's like, let's just pick a popular setting and now let's try to figure out how we can tie
Because that's what
Assassin's
people
Creed.
wanted to know. Where is it set and like what kind of fighting style would there be? They weren't that interested in what happens to so and so.
I think the beginning, the guy who created Assassin's Creed, who's no longer, he hasn't been a part of it forever. I think his original vision was to create a story and then create the worlds and the gameplay around the story, and that he was going to bring it all together, and he probably had a really good script or a great idea. And I think as the franchise got bigger and bigger and the feedback kept coming out, it became more about the setting and the gameplay than it was about, well, how does the modern day story tie into what's going on in the anime? Like, no, everybody was like, I don't care. Stop doing that. Let's just get me into Japan, feudal Japan. So let's just do that.
Still haven't done that.
That's what we're all waiting for. Well, Ghost of Tsushima just did that. I highly doubt they're going to be able to make a better game than that, but we'll see.
That's fair.
But I do think, so as we're talking about it, I actually am understanding more and more people say, yeah, so you made our point. This doesn't feel like Assassin's Creed. It's been changed, and we're kind of making the point for that actually as we're talking. Yeah, it's changed a ton since the beginning, and some folks missed that stuff from the beginning. So I get that. That makes sense. But not even just from a business perspective, just from a brand marketing and understanding who we are as Ubisoft, let's say, I totally understand why they don't create new IPs for each of these. I've seen a lot of folks, even folks in the video game journalism, quote unquote, journalism industry, saying, I wish they would just create a new IP and put this out there as you get to be a Viking or you get to be a Grecian warrior. And I'm like, okay, in theory, I hear what you're saying. You know, why do we have to tack on Assassin's Creed? I mean, I think that's totally underselling the value of a brand and having the title Assassin's Creed on there. Here's the next Assassin's Creed game. That's like saying, why do you keep making Call of Duty? Just make another war game. Just call it shooty. I don't understand why you have to call it Call of Duty. Dude,
shooty.
The brand name is so important. So
but even outside
people got to stop
like,
pretending like the name Assassin's Creed isn't an important one for them to continue.
Oh, it is. It is. I agree on that side. But I would say, but even outside of that, like, if, let's say, they kept making Assassin's Creed games and kept them closer to Assassin's Creed, and then they started making these third-person action RPG games that are kind of like The Witcher, what do you think people are going to say? Oh, all they do is, this new IP is just a copy and paste of
Assassin's
The Witcher.
Creed
It's just a
ripoff.
copy and paste of Assassin's Creed, blah, blah. Like, people have to, I've already said this, you have to, like, think things through. Like, you're saying, because they do this, I wish they would do that. Now think, what if they did that? What would you find to complain about it? Because you're going to do it. And then you would be like, well, why don't they just make it Assassin's Creed? Well, because if we made it Assassin's Creed, you would want it to be a new IP. Now you're saying this new IP is just a copy and paste of what Assassin's Creed used to be, but it's just in a different setting. Like, that's the stuff that's what games media is. They're really great journalists.
Everyone's mad about everything. Thanks, 2020.
Thanks, 2020. We blame 2020.
Assassin's Creed Valhalla doesn't feel like Assassin's Creed because F2020.
Because F2020. That's all it is. Well, I'll tell you what,
we went on for a long time, but that's my main game. I'm just playing Valhalla. And by the way, spoiler, it's going to be in my top 5. I really like it. There's other games that are like Tim. There's other games that I consider for this year. I don't think this year is that strong as far as bulk, a huge amount of great games. For me, I feel like this is the least amount of games that I've wanted to play, even though I bought still a good amount. I think the ones that were good are like games that will probably be on if you ask, what's the best games of this generation? There's at least 2 of them that I would put on that list.
Yeah.
Maybe even 3. So
looking at this year's games, it's interesting because we're getting ready for Game of the Year stuff. So I was making some lists, and I do think there are probably 4 or 5 games this year that would have won last year for me, Game of the Year.
Yeah.
And maybe that's recency bias, perhaps. But yeah, I feel like this year does have several really strong peaks. But yeah, maybe there isn't the same bulk as you see in other years. Maybe.
I mean, this year was pretty amazing for me because of a very specific game, but
True. But overall, overall, I do think it had a handful of like really killer games that would have won 2019's Game of the Year, no problem for me. But yeah, it's also no 2017 or even 2018 in my opinion. But that's just, again, that's looking at it overall. That's not comparing the games directly. That's just as an overall year. But we'll talk more about that as we get closer to our Game of the Year discussions here in a few weeks. I did want to just mention a couple games I'm trying, and then Dan, I want to hear what you're playing. I played and finished the Pathless. It's not a very long game. It's worth waiting for on sale if you don't really have any cash flow at the moment. That's totally understandable. But I would say at $20, definitely at $20, maybe even at $30, this game's worth it. It is a really strong kind of adventure boss fighting kind of game. So a little bit Shadows of the Colossus in terms of open landscape. There's no one to fight until you get to a boss battle, really. There's some things to navigate. There's a lot of bow and arrow work, which gives me a little bit of Zelda vibe. Some of the puzzles you have to solve to get these tokens that you need, those kind of remind me of some Zelda stuff here and there. So little pieces from games like that.
Fast moving, like you can't ever just stop and explore?
No, you can trigger the run if you want to. So you have like a stamina meter, and when you hold the left trigger in, then you'll start sprinting. And everything auto aims. It's a very easy game. So it'll auto aim at the nearest talisman for you to shoot with your arrow, and that'll send a bunch of little orbs your way that will recharge your stamina meter. And so that's how you can keep on running, or in some cases jumping and eventually gliding really far. You got a little eagle buddy. You can upgrade him to additional flaps because he can just glide. He's not strong enough to totally like fly up high in the sky, but you can glide, and then you can upgrade him to where he can like flap his wings really hard, and you kind of boost yourself up a little higher in the air, and you can do that a bunch of times. I think it's a really good game. I highly recommend it when you see it for $20. If it ever comes to like PS Plus, it's a no-brainer to try it out. It's really pretty as well. I played it on PC because the Epic Game Store I used that $10 coupon that Derek's been talking about. That really has been a good deal these last couple weeks.
Did you get another coupon after you bought it, or
I did
you not? Okay.
Nice.
Yep. So
I might buy it since it's only $30.
Yep. So I thought it was very much worth it, and I do recommend it. Sorry, my dog's jumping up on my lap here. You need to go outside? What do you smell? You smell my booze? Okay, I'll move that over here.
Daddy, stop drinking. You drink too much.
You drink too much. I've told you.
Stop.
So I did enjoy that. Also tried early access game called Stranded Deep because my kids, especially my son Shepard, but all my kids really like survival games, and they saw this was a survival on a desert island. The idea is you're in a plane crash and now you got to survive on an island. So it's not surprising if you've played any survival game at all. right? You start collecting basic things, and then you start unlocking recipes to create a torch, and then a fire, and then you can start using coconuts to create these water canteens that you can use your water still. So it's very predictable in terms of a survival game. It's just set in the ocean on these kind of tropical islands or whatever. So
what's it called again?
Stranded Deep.
That's what she said.
Isn't that free? Or wasn't that free?
Stranded Deep. Was that free? Let me look. I can't remember if I got that on Epic. I think I got it on.
I think I got it Epic.
You gotta take her out on a date first. It's not free.
Before you get Stranded Deep.
Trust me.
Oh, Lord. All right, I'm gonna throw it over to Dan. Dan, tell us what you're playing. I'm gonna step away to take my dog out real quick. But Dan, tell us what you've been playing.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll talk to Derek because he's always interested in what I have to say. So.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a nap now.
You know what? Just out of spite, because I was gonna skip it. I don't actually have much to say about it, but I bought that what was it? A Planet Coaster game. You familiar with Planet Coaster, Derek? Yeah, Planet Coaster.
No.
It's a video game.
Oh, you're talking about the roller coaster game.
No, I'm talking about coasters that you put on tables for the glass when you don't want the.
No.
You don't want the moisture to mess up the table. No, so yeah, Planet Coaster. So it's I haven't played Roller Coaster Tycoon in like forever, so I can't really compare the two. But a lot of people are super into this game. They say it's actually better because it's very customizable. There's a lot of detail that you can like mess around with. Like essentially, like when you're making the park, you can lay out sort of all the buildings that are like pre-made assets, or you can take like kind of like a wall, like different types of walls, and make your own buildings. So it's very detailed and meticulous. It could take a long time. Like I basically just have like the entrance of the park and not even really fully done, and it's taken me already like 3 hours.
What is
this,
like, Planet Coaster?
Yes. And if you looked at what I've done, you'd be like, oh, so what's that taking you like 10, 15 minutes? Because that's really like how little it looks like I've done, but like it's taken me like 3 hours already just to do that because I'm being very meticulous about like kind of creating some of the buildings myself. So I don't have a ton to say about it yet, just because again I haven't really played it for that long. What? Yeah, just
because you're just building walls. You're just putting on your best Trump over there.
Exactly.
2020.
2020.
Well, I mean, does Trump
2020 roller coaster?
F coasters, F 2020. I'm making a Christmas themed amusement park for Renee because she loves Christmas. So. And there's some Christmas assets in there, so I was like, oh, that's cool. Let me actually give that a shot.
Is this the thing where you
I'm
can share
sure
parks
you're
with each other?
a great husband. I'm sure. So I'm gonna compliment you up front. I'm sure you're a great husband, but you're an absolute fucking dork of a husband. Like, I'm making this because Renee loves it.
Derek, spoiler alert. Come on, people don't know that. Like, what are you doing?
Oh my gosh.
They think that I'm cool. Like,
but is the idea here that you can create them and then just put them up on like a general created by users, or is it more like Nintendo where you got to have a friend code?
No, what is it called? Planet Workshop or something? There's essentially like almost like a thing that you click on in the game in the menu there. It's like something workshop. I forget what the first word is, but so you can go in there and you can check out parks that people have uploaded. And I think you can even download certain assets of things they've created.
Okay.
I might be mistaken. I swear I saw where it said that, but then like when I was trying to see if I can do that, I couldn't quite figure it out. So then
you could replicate that and like use that regularly in your park. That's cool.
Yeah, I think that's what it is, but it's just that the game is just so like massive and the attention to detail that you can put into it that it's just like it's definitely a steep learning curve.
Yeah.
But if that's sort of your thing, like a lot of people like Sims because like it's actually pretty detailed, like as far as like when you're making the house, building the walls and then like the roof and putting the furniture in there and so on and so forth. So it's like that, but it's definitely way because I played Sims 4 a few months ago and I was like, oh, this is fun, but like this is way more detailed. So
gotcha.
But yeah, so far it is cool. It's very fun. It's actually not a bad looking game. It's got nice reflections and lighting. So yeah, but we'll see how that goes after a while. But the main thing is I finished my Street Kid arc of Cyberpunk 2077.
All right.
Oh, okay.
What was your overall thoughts on the story without spoiling anything? Did you like what they did with the story for that?
Yes, I actually really liked it a lot. I'm actually missing it now because now I hopped right back, and I think I need to maybe I'm trying to like maybe kind of play something else a little shorter
Space it a little bit. Yeah.
because I hopped back into Assassin's Creed. I'm like, all right, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
this is kind of trudging along. Like Cyberpunk, I think the way that the story is built is actually really nice because so like the game has the three different sort of arcs in the beginning, right? That you can choose: Street Kid, Nomad, Corpo.
Yep.
So I think the way that they created the story in the game, it kind of puts you in a situation where you can, I mean, you can finish the game definitely faster than Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
And you can also skip a lot of things. Like there are definitely side quests. They are side quests, but like I would say they're like in between main story missions and side quests. Like they're pretty important. So if you, but
Well,
you can
that's
just
what I
not,
saw.
yeah,
Yeah, I
you
saw
can just
that
not do.
online that you could blow through the main story like super fast, but if you skip certain side quests, like certain side characters and their story, it's like a huge impact on the main story. So they
Yes.
were like upset it was designed that way, but I'm gonna disagree. I think if as long as the main story still works, let people that want to blow through it and do that do that. Let
Right.
the people that want to explore and do extra stuff, like because you just heard me complain about how Assassin's Creed's too long. I like that this game like gives you the option of, hey, you can blow through the story, but you missed out on certain content that can impact how the story plays and
And
how
what
you,
ending you get? Yeah.
yeah,
That's like
that's
you
your
being
fault.
that's like
Yep.
you being a student and like not preparing for the test, and
Yeah,
then
and
it
then
comes the
getting
day of the
mad that you
test.
failed.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
you fail, and then you're angry. You're like, why did I fail? It's like, well, you didn't study, idiot. So
Why didn't I understand the concept? Because you didn't like pay attention to the story.
yeah.
Like you didn't go
So
through everything. So
Huh.
so it's really cool because so after I finished it, so after I got like kind of I made my choice and I finished the game, I went and kind of was like I could tell from the final moments of the of that last mission, I was like, there definitely seems like there's a lot of choices being thrown at me, and this game is it has multiple endings, and it definitely does.
Yeah.
And from what I read, I think it was either 6 or 7 altogether, including secret endings.
Okay.
okay.
And I think there are 3, maybe 4, but I think it's 3 actual normal endings. And as long as you definitely are meeting certain individuals, which I don't know why you wouldn't do those missions. I mean, they're interesting, and again, they seem very important. So it's like it kind of just I feel like most people will be like, oh, I feel like I should probably do this. Like I kind of need to do this. Um, then you should be fine, and you'll still have like kind of something to play around with at the end as far as the choices that you're making. Um, but after I finished it and I chose my main choice, then I went back and chose another one where it kind of ends abruptly for a certain reason that I'm not going to say. And I
Okay.
thought that was really interesting because so essentially when the credits are rolling, um, the people that you've met in the game, so like you've made friends, people that you've met, and you have like you form bonds and connections with them. You know how like so when you're playing the game, if you call somebody, it almost kind of like it shows like the picture of them and they're like talking. So like a video like FaceTime.
Yep.
It shows that in the credits, like in the corner. They basically are like, "Hey V," and like they say some stuff. And that second ending, the one that ends abruptly, it's there's some heavy stuff that they're saying at you
Huh.
for certain reasons that I was like, oh,
Interesting.
that actually really hit me pretty hard because there's a certain character in the game that I was pursuing a relationship with. Um, so I was like, oh, this character is really cool, and I like this character. And then at the end there, I was like, oh
They
man,
said
that
some stuff to you.
yeah, they
Yeah.
said some stuff. I was like, oh man, that actually kind of hit me pretty hard. So
It's good to hear that directly how the story not only works but how it can adjust based on what you do. I think that's cool.
yeah,
It's reflected so far. And by the way, we've had a lot of votes come in for Game of the Year. I'm really excited about this year. We got a lot of involvement, which is cool. So thank you all if you voted. If you haven't, head on over to our Facebook page. You'll see it pinned. Just look for Current Gen Podcast on Facebook. You'll find it,
When
and you can go
when are we
vote.
doing Game of the Year?
So it'll be like the third, fourth week of January. So
Okay, because
we've got
maybe I
at
should
least
switch
we have
from
at least
Assassin's
one
Creed to Cyberpunk. Like
we have at least one more
I can
regular
finish it.
episode.
I
This
think it'll be a really interesting debate with that game if we can have like the 3 of us definitely. I know it's harder for Tim because he has way more kids running around and there's boobies and wieners getting thrown around in that game. Everywhere. Dildos. They had to literally patch out the dildos. Too many dildos.
I'm gonna play as much of it as I can, but part of what we're doing here with the Game of the Year stuff is we know we're all gonna get spoiled. So anyone participating and listening is gonna have things spoiled. So don't worry about that. Whatever you've played by then, whatever you've played by then, you've played. If you haven't, too bad. Also, sometimes, like if it's a new Star Wars movie, I don't want you to tell me some major like this will impact my enjoyment spoiler.
Right.
But when it comes to a video game, if you tell me like, oh, you have a choice at the end between this thing or this thing, I guess I might be a little annoyed, but not really. For the most part, I don't care. That's fine. That's just my take on it. Some people get really annoyed. I guess I don't.
I was trying to be as vague as possible at the end there because again, I like when I was reading that guide with the endings, I did kind of take a peek a bit further. And I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Like if we were to tell everyone right now that in Final Fantasy Remake Part 1, you play as Sephiroth the whole time, that'd be a big spoiler. We don't want to tell them that.
Oh yeah.
Right? We wouldn't want them to know that. So let's not tell them that. I won't say it.
Yeah.
Like you play as Sephiroth.
Yeah, the entire time.
Shirtless
in
Sephiroth.
Cyberpunk.
And it's actually just a rhythm action game. You dance as Sephiroth the entire time.
And he's shirtless.
Hip hop only.
So I think this week I'll switch from Assassin's Creed. I got the gist of what Assassin's Creed is. Even if I get blown away by the story, I don't think it's going to move up. Cyberpunk is the one that could actually move up into my top spot. So, but that would be based off the story.
Well, what I was going to say about voting is not to spoil anything yet. It's actually pretty close. So get on there and vote if you've got strong opinions. There's a lot of races that, like the Nintendo exclusives close, the PlayStation exclusives very close. The overall Game of the Year one is super close. There's like 4 games that keep kind of it's crazy. It's really interesting to keep passing each other. So
good year.
It's really, really cool. And for best story as well, I'm getting a really wide variety of reactions on story. And I'm surprised and that's just because I haven't played it as much as you have, obviously. But I'm surprised at how much love Cyberpunk is getting for the best story award. It's getting a lot of votes for that.
It's hard to fish through the negativity because, I mean, and obviously some of it is warranted with the game and the things that have happened, but as long as you're having a fairly smooth experience and you're playing the game and you're experiencing, the arcs, there are 3 acts in the game. When you transition to the second act, you meet a pretty important character and they kind of stay there for a lot of it. So I'm trying to be as vague as possible. But a lot of the stuff connected to that character is very, very cool. It's very interesting. Kind of seeing kind of like their background and kind of seeing how they were in the beginning. And then as you're kind of being with that character, how they evolve and how you maybe even change a little bit. Well, I mean, you're technically actually making choices in conversation. So typical, like you can respond as a jerk or you can kind of respond as a more like understanding and compassionate person. So obviously then they'll respond differently, and same with anybody else in other missions to side characters. But that whole middle arc is very, very cool, like the way when you transition over and that's basically what kind of pushes the story along. Like that's really mainly what it's about. Like the first act is just like a huge almost like teaser for what the real game is, and it sets up really what's going to be going on. And I think it's really interesting how they tie in that certain character. So
that's cool.
Yeah,
that's very cool. You got me. You just like Derek. I'm starting to be like, all right.
I have so much to say.
I need to start playing this game like tonight when we're done.
There's so much I want to say. I can't because it's just it just spoils it. But like it's it's very interesting. It's very cool. I really like the way that they did it. There are certain moments that there was one particular moment I was like, oh, like we were kind of like vibing in a really negative way right here in the beginning, and then like a certain mission happened, and then like we kind of sat down and like the way that character was interacting with me suddenly really changed, and it almost seemed like too sudden. But I don't know if that's like a weird thing of like it's an open world game and you can kind of approach missions at different times. So I don't know if maybe like if I had done another mission, maybe it would have like not been as jarring, or maybe that's just how it was and that's how they made that. But like overall, like the progression of that arc and that relationship is super cool. So, yeah.
Or maybe everyone just doesn't love you, Dan. Okay, maybe
I
that's what it
mean,
is.
listen, I was being nice V. I was being a nice lady, all right?
No, that's really shocking.
Yeah. You don't think I'm a nice V? No?
Oh, I'm sure you are. I'm sure like you pick every option that is like choose to cry over them saying, "Do you want coffee?"
Choose
I
to
don't-
You would
I don't
select
think
that.
I don't think there's crying
press
in
X
this
to cry.
I don't think there's crying in this world. I think if anyone cries in this world, they literally get shot in the face. Just
Yeah.
you know.
Or
This
they
world has no
electrocute
remorse.
themselves because
I
they're all made
play
out
an arrogant corporate suit, so
Yeah.
I dish it a lot.
Sounds
Well, I'm
about
looking forward to. I got to get through at least one of the storylines. That's my goal. Sometime in the next 2-3 weeks, whenever we start debating best story and best overall game, I wanna have this one wrapped up enough that I can at least chime in on it. And anyway, we'll see what happens there. I did want to mention one other game before we do some headlines and wrap this thing up for this week. So I got Death Stranding. Someone outside? What just happened?
No, that was
like a breeze.
me.
Okay, just
Strong
sound like
winds.
sound like
It's the
someone else.
fan.
Okay. So anyway, at Derek's recommendation, because it is on sale, and again, the Epic Store $10 coupon is an amazing deal. Every purchase you make over $15, you get another $10 coupon, and it just keeps resetting. It's crazy. So anyway, I got Death Stranding for $20 on PC. I didn't own it before. I think Derek had it on PS4, but I had never downloaded and played it there.
Well, I bought it like hard copy.
Oh, okay.
Wait,
So
no,
that's
I did eventually buy it digital, I think.
I just never played it digital. I know I missed it last year, and so the short version is because I've only played it for 2-3 hours maybe. The short version is it's one of the prettiest games I've ever seen, and I don't know if this is
Yeah.
true on the PS4 either, but I'm playing it on PC. I've got it all on really high settings and DLSS on, so I'm playing on ultra performance mode. Just wanted to see like the most frames per second possible with the highest resolution possible. I switched it to quality as well just to see the difference. No matter how you play it, with performance or quality, it is so pretty. Everything.
It's
The
a fantastic
environments,
engine. It's
the
the same
water.
engine as
Yeah.
Horizon Zero Dawn. So
Okay. Okay. I mean,
yeah.
it looks so. I mean, but it looks photorealistic at times. There are other
Yeah.
times when it's like, okay, they just kind of colored this ground green. Got it. But that's not very often. Usually, it's just so pretty, and then the music kicks in. They've got all these different artists and bands. They had create tunes as you're traveling. Especially at the beginning, your first major delivery due, which is kind of a very, very weird, very heavy delivery they have you make. It's like, this is odd, the thing that they strap to your back right towards the beginning.
Yeah.
And then they start playing tunes for you as you're slowly trudging your way. And it takes like 20 legit 30 minutes to actually walk up to this place with this
Yep.
thing on your back.
Yep.
And while I don't necessarily, it hasn't yet clicked with like, oh, this game is super fun. That hasn't clicked. I know some people say it takes a little while for the fun, like, oh, now I'm in the rhythm of how this works. But I do see the appeal. I see the appeal of the visuals, the setting. This is a very strange game about super futuristic, dangerous delivery services. Is basically what it is. It's like
very
King of
Kojima.
Queens 2020 or whatever.
Yeah, it's very Kojima.
It's very Kojima.
It's very out there.
But already their performances they're just killing it. And so I knew that was the case from what all I had watched and read about it. But I don't understand any of it. None of it makes sense. None of it makes any sense. They're talking about things that it's like, all right, maybe by the end of the game I'll recognize what that thing is, and then I'll wish at the beginning I had known that, because then I would understand this conversation a little better. It's just one of those things where they create it's in the future. There's all these new threats, all these new events that happen, the way things have gone down, these enemies you have to face. There's acronyms for stuff.
Yeah.
And I get that they just want you to kind of pick up mid-stride and go with it, and you'll eventually understand pieces of it. But that can be a little frustrating when the gameplay is also so unique and it's also enticing and interesting. And yet they kind of hold you at arm's length. It's almost like they don't want you to understand much of it at the beginning. They just want you to press forward.
Again, very Kojima.
That's very Kojima.
Kojima doesn't want you to know anything until like the last 10 minutes.
Correct. That was the same even with Metal Gear Solid 5. I played all the Metal Gear games except for 4 because I never had a PS3. So I played all of them except for 4. I felt like I kind of understood most of Metal Gear stuff. I kind of got the gist of it. And even then, he wanted to turn it all on its head at the end, which he did, which I liked. But anyway, all that to say, I'm enjoying it. I'm gonna keep playing this one in between stuff. I'll probably step back from it while I try to catch up for Game of the Year discussion. But then once that happens, I do see myself putting some more time into it. It's also just so pretty. It really is.
Yeah,
it really looks good.
Um,
Yeah.
Could I in case you had another thing
That was
out there.
it. That's
Okay.
it. Just Death. I mean, Death Stranding and Pathless are the main two that I'm playing. So
I just want to throw out there while you guys are playing it, there absolute must
for
do.
Cyberpunk.
Yes, for Cyberpunk. Sorry, Cyberpunk 2077. A side quest you absolutely have to do. If you can find it on the map, it's called Sinner Man. So obviously,
Like sinner, like angry sinner, angry god, evil
like
sinners.
religious stuff.
Okay.
A very heavily religious themed mission story arc. You'll get to a certain part where you might think you should shoot. You can if you want, but I urge you not to shoot. Let the story unfold, or not. Go ahead and blow someone's head off if you want. Let the story unfold. Do the mission, and then there's a second half to the mission, and it ends. It's heavy, dude. You do something, and it's very heavy. So very interesting.
Push square to cry.
Press square.
No, but you'll be pushing square to do something else, and I'm not going to tell you, but it's pretty messed up. So
Interesting.
Push X to shoot. Push
It's
square
like
to cry.
Call of Duty when it's like press X to pay respects. All right, I'll pay my respects.
I mean, what was your choice? What was your option? Could you
There's
just
no other
walk
option.
away?
It's like
I know.
you walk up
it's
to the
stupid.
coffin at a funeral. Press X to pay respects.
what if
No.
my X button was missing, though? What would I do?
You would just be standing there.
Then you're disrespectful. Okay.
Yeah.
All
But
right.
yeah,
So,
Sinner Man, do that mission.
all right. Good call out.
I just want to add on before you move on real quick about Death Stranding. So
Yeah.
I own it on PS4 Pro, and I did buy it on PC. I texted Tim, and I was like, you got to buy this game.
Yeah.
But even if you don't like the game, you just need to look at it. It's worth $20 to look at. So PS4 Pro, it is native 4K, and it's basically the equivalent of, I believe, Digital Foundry said, medium settings for PC. When I booted it up on my amazing, holy 4K monitor with DLSS, and I did the same thing as you. I put it on like ultra settings and then put it at ultra performance.
Yes.
And then I changed it to quality, which quality looks... My God, I was like, am I playing a game or is this real life? Like, is Sam Porter in my house? Like this, it is amazing on PC. Like what they did with this port, which is all I've ever heard about this, is that Death Stranding is one of the best ports ever from console to PC, and it really is. It looks great on PS4 Pro. It looks absolutely great. That's actually why I didn't buy it on PC. Is I was like, it's already native 4K on PS4 Pro, and I don't need 60 frames per second for this game. Wrong. It looks so much better. Like, I don't even want to touch the PS4 Pro.
It looks really good. Really, really good. There's also some Cyberpunk crossover thing happening with right now because of 505 games.
Yeah, I don't know what that's about. I don't know what it is.
I didn't look. It's something to do with some equipment, I guess you can get.
It's just stuff with Cyberpunk on it.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, there wasn't, of course, not a ton of news. Everyone's on vacation, but there's some worth talking about. From Nintendo, the big thing there is just they've been having crazy sales. So if you've got a Switch, go check out your eShop. You've got so many great sales to choose from, even from some of their major releases. So it's worth taking a look there. If you've been waiting on Nintendo games to drop in price, they've been low for weeks. So you might have missed some, but there's still a lot to select from. One of the mention real quick.
Did we mention last week that Donkey Kong Country 3 is on the Super Nintendo
Donkey Kong Country 3, Super Nintendo, that's right.
I know Gaston doesn't want to believe me that it's the best Donkey Kong Country game, but it is. So
it's really fun.
It's got the best one.
It's got some of the best level design, and that's come from someone who loves 1 and 2 as well. It's really good.
you could argue 2 might have better ones, but like the thing is, like the way that they approach Donkey Kong Country 3, like the world, how you progress. The baby. Well, yeah, Kitty Kong that you can literally, so as Dixie can like grab with her ponytail and just like hurl into the air and just smash into things. Yeah. But like what I love most about that game is like the way that you actually navigate that like overworld. Like it's so addictive, dude. Because like
remind me what that navigation is. It's been a while. What is it?
So you know how like in most of them,
There's like a
Or
map.
in the
with,
first
like,
two, it's
points.
basically like it's like a dot, and you go to the
Yeah.
next dot, and the next dot, next dot. That is the case when you're in like the level. You go to the level, but like outside of that, basically there's like an overworld, and like you start off with like a little dinky boat, and then you go to like sort of the first little section of land there, and then eventually you get like you find like a piece to upgrade to a hovercraft,
I don't
which
remember
then
this at
lets you
all.
go to what?
I don't remember this at all. This is crazy.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Basically, as you're progressing through the game, you're finding new parts to upgrade to like get a new vehicle to get to the next section. Um, and
All
then
right.
like the secret bonus world is also hidden, so like you can literally play this entire game and not know how to unlock that, and you don't even get access to the hidden world, which actually has the real ending because you need to get all the DK coins or the with the banana birds
Yeah.
to get the that game is awesome, dude. So
That game is great. I just remember some of the levels being great,
Yeah.
really creative, and of course with the baby and with Dixie Kong, the way they team up, I always thought that was really cool the way they did that. But my wife and I love those games. We haven't played them, of course, in years, but back on the Wii, we played through all of them.
dude, I'm honestly go back and play it. It's so good.
Yeah,
So-
I've heard. I have replayed the other two, and they do hold up. A little bit of nostalgia attached
Yeah.
to it, of course, but.
Yeah.
But yeah, Nintendo does have some good sales. You probably missed some of them, but there's still some good stuff there. And what I do like is they've also updated the eShop enough that you can do some nice filtering. So you can go into a filter view and sort them by release date or price low to high. And those are very basic things, but they actually have that now if you haven't checked it in a long time. And they also tell you right beside the game how much time is left on that sale. So it's like, hey, 14 more days on this sale or 2 more hours on this sale or whatever. So that's nice too.
Nice.
Sony announced their PS Plus games for January, which are amazing. I mean, they just absolutely put the games for gold selection to shame. So, actually, let me do the games for gold selection first. We've got Little Nightmares, King of Fighters 13, Breakdown, and Dead Rising. I'm not saying those are bad games.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Little Nightmares is pretty cool.
I'm not saying they're bad games. Because if you like fighters, I've heard King of Fighters 13 is fun. Whatever, that's totally fine. But PlayStation Plus subscribers, they'll get Shadow of the Tomb Raider, Maneater, and Greedfall.
I mean, Greedfall, right? I mean, come on, Eric. Greedfall.
Now, Shadow of the Tomb Raider is just like top tier AAA fantastic game, and then Maneater and Greedfall are both like really fun for what they are. I mean, if you can like let some glitchiness and maybe not the best visuals in the world, if you can let some of that go, you can have a lot of fun with both of those games. So anyway, I just think the PS Plus selection is way better.
Nothing, Derek. No reaction. No, nothing.
About what?
I mean, Greedfall. That's your like if that was like the top woman in the world you could sleep with, like that's what Greedfall is to you. All right. You just want to shove your face in between those greed boobies and just go.
No, you're not wrong.
We call that
You want to fall. You want to
greed
fall.
boating. It's
Greed what?
It's greed boating. That's
Greed
what they
boating.
call it.
Yeah, there you go. Greed boating.
Yeah.
Falling in
I mean,
between.
nobody's gonna play it. I mean, only me and Jesse White played it. Maybe a couple others.
I'll give it
that
a
listen
shot
to our
eventually.
People play
I'll
it
definitely
now.
give it a shot.
It's free.
Actually,
It'll be free
most
starting
people
with-
that have played it that I've seen, of course, there are people that don't like it, but that I've seen, they liked it because as long as you go into it with realistic expectation that this is a modern version, but not a AAA version of it, of old school like BioWare type RPGs, it's really good, and the ending has a good payoff. Like you don't feel like, oh, this was just a cheesy story. Like your decisions matter. Like how you talk to people, how you treat people, the decisions you make matter, and that is important to me when I play a game.
And you get to run with a stick up your butt the entire game. It's amazing.
Yeah, the running is absolutely terrible.
And I cry in the game. Can I make that choice?
Yeah, can you cry?
No, that's actually why I like the game, is because it's a manly game.
No crying.
Playing it.
There are no emotions or feelings.
Not playing. No.
Tom Hanks actually endorses this game. There's no crying in Greedfall. All right, so I did want to highlight a couple other news stories, and then maybe these are a little outdated now. I don't know. Whatever. We've talked a lot about Cyberpunk, and it sounds, if you can't tell, the general vibe from the three of us is very positive, and that's also from Dan, who's played it way more than me or Derek. So I think that's what should take away is that Cyberpunk is a very high quality game. That being said, CDPR is not out of the woods by any stretch in terms of all the trouble they're in, all the backlash is still not on the PlayStation Store. They're thinking maybe in January, hopefully February, it'll come back. That's not until they fix it on the PS4 at least. So these threatened lawsuits are actually happening, and CD Projekt is being taken to court in the U.S. over claims that the bug-ridden state of Cyberpunk's PS4 and Xbox One releases were hidden from investors, causing them to incur losses. So the company has responded, though, saying, we're going to take action, and we're going to defend ourselves vigorously. So they feel like it's an unfair lawsuit, and, of course, their investors feel like they've lost money unfairly.
So is it the investors that's suing?
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Okay. Gotcha.
Which is crazy to me because this game has broken all kinds of records with sales. Like I know fans are disappointed.
Yeah, but it like CDPR dropped like huge on the market, and that's where they're invested.
It'll recover. It'll recover. But whatever.
This is more about just making a point.
It is. You're right. So we'll see what happens there. We'll follow along with that as it happens. I'm still a big CDPR fan. Like, yeah, maybe they could have handled things better. Maybe with all the success they've had in the last 5+ years. Maybe they weren't quite ready for this. And that's fair to say. But anyway, we've talked at length about what we think they should have done and whatever else. Hopefully this does not cripple them. Hopefully they can get through this one. All right. Wanted to read off some of these real quick before we wrap things up for this week. And I found this blog. Don't know how accurate this is, so take this with a grain of salt. The blogger calls his blog the Game of the Year Picks blog. What he does is every year, and I think throughout the year he does stuff like this too, he just tracks all the picks from every outlet he can find. So like every major and minor video game outlet, here's their Game of the Year selections. And so some haven't made them yet. Places like Giant Bomb or Easy Allies, they haven't made their selections yet. Their episodes probably come out here in the next few weeks for those, but most places have made their picks. And so I thought I would give you guys a rundown of what games are winning Game of the Year just based on sheer numbers of picks. So we'll start at the bottom. There are several games, there are 6 games actually that got picked once, just mostly by smaller outlets. And from what I can tell, some of these are niche outlets. Some of them are like, we specialize in indie games. So of course they're going to pick an indie winner, but take that with a grain of salt. Here we go. Here are the ones that have won one Game of the Year award. Yakuza Like a Dragon was picked. Spiritfarer. Someone picked Spiritfarer. I'm actually surprised Spiritfarer didn't win more than that from some of the smaller places. But Sakuna of Rice and Ruin won. Ori and the Will of the Wisps was picked once. Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales, one place picked that. And then Assassin's Creed Valhalla was picked as a Game of the Year from one of these places. And by the way, the numbers get up in like well over 100. So, all right, with 2 selections from 2 different outlets, it's Microsoft Flight Simulator was picked as Game of the Year by 2 different places. Both of them are Pilot's websites. I'm just kidding. I don't know.
Pilot's websites. Is that a
probably?
site?
It's honestly probably PT.
We only review games about piloting. All right. Doom Eternal won 4 Game of the Year picks from various outlets. Half-Life Alyx won 7. A few of those pretty significant actually, because I'm pretty sure it was it GameSpot that picked them? It was a pretty big one that picked them as well. Picked Half-Life Alyx. They didn't get that many, but they got some significant ones. Final Fantasy VII Remake was picked 9 times.
Oh, foul.
Different outlets.
Much like Trump, this election was rigged. All right.
You want to recount?
These votes aren't reflective of what's really okay. Just never mind.
Well, out of the 9 that voted, 8 of them were dead. So there you go.
That's right. Yeah, they died like 50 years ago. It's crazy.
And the last one's an illegal. So
Cyberpunk 2077 finished with 12 picks for Game of the Year. That's significant to me for several reasons. Not the smallest of which is not that it's under all this fire right now for the performance on certain consoles, but also it came out so late. This was a pretty late release, and a lot of these outlets released their lists in November or early December. So the fact that they got 12 to me is a pretty big deal. Ghost of Tsushima got 13 picks for Game of the Year. Animal Crossing New Horizons also got 13 picks for Game of the Year. Try hards, am I right, guys? Hades got 31 picks. And cool. The Last of Us Part 2 got 102 picks for Game of the Year.
But that game is sexist and it's anti-PC. It's not woke, or it's trying to be woke. I don't remember, but
it's all the things I hate. It's part of the problem. So there you go. There was some of the counts from some of the Game of the Year picks. I mean, not very surprising to me. Is that list surprising to you guys at all?
I was surprised Ghost of Tsushima only got 13 if Cyberpunk got 12.
Yep.
I thought it would be higher.
I legitimately think remakes should have more, but I mean, take my opinion with a grain of salt because I am biased.
Let me ask you this: let's just pretend Last of Us Part 2 got delayed to 2021. Would this be a runaway for a game like Hades? That was kind of a surprise hit.
Well, I mean, based off of this, you'd have to count those votes towards.
But yeah, I'm wondering, like, would Cyberpunk, Ghost, and Final Fantasy VII, and maybe even like Doom Eternal or something like that, have gotten huge boosts because Last of Us Part 2 is not on the table? So I do wonder that.
Yeah. It depends on what is making their decision to choose that game. Like, what are they picking? Is it the visuals? Is it the story? Is it,
It's probably all of it,
XYZ. So,
yeah. I mean, that's not the case. That's a very big hypothetical because Last of Us Part 2 definitely arrived and made some waves. So we'll see if we are part of the. Are we part of the crowd? Okay, are we sheep? Are we gonna pick Last of Us Part 2, or do we think differently? Are we like Apple? Do we think different? And
we do think.
I think the more tryhards are the Hades crew.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think the Animal Crossing folks are more tryhards.
Okay, all right.
No,
listen,
Hades was good, but it's not game of the year.
2020
is an almost perfect video game. What'd you say?
I said 2020 was a terrible year, but we were saved by Animal Crossing, so everything's fine. No
That's
F20,
true.
no F2020.
I think Animal Crossing gives people a lot of warm and fuzzy feelings for good reason, and that's why a lot of people.
Animal Crossing is like Trump. It just feels so good and so right, so comforting.
Don't put the same the two of them.
You can hate on Trump. That's my boy. I'm gonna wear a Trump T-shirt all 2021.
It's all right. He's gonna be running again in 2024. It's gonna be great.
I mean, you can wear whatever you want, but
voter fraud.
Oh my gosh. All right.
This episode's getting flagged now.
This episode's totally getting flagged. One of us showed some sort of, whether it was tongue in cheek or not, support for Trump. We're done. We're getting removed from the channel.
Voter fraud.
Yep. We are done. All right. Well, speaking of we are done, we're going to go ahead and call this episode as well. And then we'll regroup next week. I do want to it's one that we've kind of had on the back burner for a few weeks now, but it's not like a high priority. But if you guys remember, a couple months ago, we've done a couple tournaments of best games of 2010 and 2011. I want to do that with 2012 because that year has some absolute crazy hits, and it'd be interesting to see what survives a tournament there with 2012. So we'll do that. If not next week, then maybe the weeks that follow, some Game of the Year stuff. But as a reminder, if you haven't voted yet, we still got, I think I'll leave it up for another week and a half, maybe 2 weeks for voting. So you can just go to Facebook and look for the Current Gen Podcast, and you'll see it pinned at the top of our page there. Or you could always just shoot us a message, currentgenpodcast@gmail.com, and I'll send you a link.
Just want to add an addendum to that. Just remember that when you're voting, you vote for the right game, and that's the one that has the word final and fantasy in it. So just throwing that out there.
I only have that
under
the remaster category.
A remake, it was a good game.
Okay.
It was okay.
I'm going to uppercut both of you in the grundle. So
both of you. It's going to be worse for you than me.
Just a fiery Shoryuken just right in the grundle.
Ouch. I have gotten some questions about what determines remake, remaster. We'll talk more about that with Game of the Year stuff, but the short version is this, and we've talked about this already on the show. If it's in general the same experience that already existed, regardless of whether or not they rebuilt the code or whatever else. It's kind of like, hey, we re-recorded the song. Oh, did you add a verse? Is it got a new chorus? You added, nope, same song. We just re-recorded it with newer equipment. Okay, cool. It's going to sound better, but same song. I feel like that way about the video games as well. For the most part, those deserve recognition. We'll put them in a category called Best Remaster, Remake, Re-Release, and you can vote for your favorite there. Things like Resident Evil 3, Final Fantasy VII Remake, that does not fall in that category. Those games are totally different in various ways from their originals. They maintain some things, but you could make an argument they're very different game experiences. But
they're a different experience when you play them.
It is a subjective.
They maintain basically everything else, but
it's a subjective take. That's just the way I approach it, and I think Derek and Dan in general agree with that. We're always going to disagree on certain games if they fall in that category, but in general, we're trying to make it be like, hey, is this a brand new game experience or is this pretty much the same thing?
It is actually legitimately tricky with 7 Remake because we don't have the full picture because it's being broken up into parts.
Correct. But as it is right now, as a standalone game from 2020,
Yeah.
it is a completely different experience.
Yeah,
Like,
and
now-
I already said that. Like, you only know it's being broken up in parts because you've played the original. If they were just to release this as Final Fantasy 16,
Yep.
you wouldn't know that. You'd be like, all right, I think I'm playing a full story.
Different characters and all that stuff, and different name things differently. Yep.
My point is, and it's supportive of Final Fantasy 7, is that it's a full game. It's the full
100%.
game. People focus too much on what they already know.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you guys. Thanks for taking time to chat this week, and we'll chat with you next time. I think we got one more week of normal episode, and then we'll probably jump into Game of the Year after that. So, Happy New Year, everybody. Talk to you soon.
F 2020.
Trump.